You believe you're being polite. You think you're being helpful. You assume you're building rapport. But while you keep smiling and agreeing, while you feel the need to justify yourself and over-explain, while you rush to fill every moment of silence with anxious words, something subtle is happening beneath the surface. You're slowly giving away your power. And the worst part? No one will ever point it out. They'll simply start treating you accordingly. Let me tell you something most people are afraid to admit. The majority lose respect not because they lack skill, but because they behave as if they do. It's not about what you know. It's not about what you're capable of doing. It's about how you carry yourself while doing it. And 9 out of 10 people show up as someone seeking approval, someone afraid of upsetting others, someone who doesn't fully trust their own worth. Have you ever noticed how certain people walk into a room and instantly command attention? It's not charisma. It's not luck. It's the absence of weakness signals. Meanwhile, you're sending signals constantly. Through the way you speak, the way you react, the way you position yourself when someone challenges you. And here's the real issue. You were taught that being kind, available, and flexible is the path to respect. But that's a convenient lie. What you call kindness, others interpret as an inability to set boundaries. What you call flexibility, they see as a lack of conviction. What you call availability, they read as a hunger for validation. You're not being respectful, you're becoming invisible. There is a principle that separates those who lead from those who follow. Those who set the rules from those who adjust to them. And the principle is simple. Power isn't what you possess. It's what others believe you possess. And they don't believe what you say. They believe what you project. You can be sharp. You can have every answer. You can work harder than anyone else in the room. But if you signal a need for approval, if you show discomfort with conflict, if you reveal that pressure makes you fold, none of that matters. Because people don't respond to competence alone. They respond to confidence. And confidence is the ability to take up space without asking permission. Now let me show you where things go wrong. Because most of your habits, the ones you assume are harmless, are quietly eroding your reputation every single day. And you don't even notice it happening. First mistake, you justify yourself before anyone asks. Someone asks you a question. Before you even answer it, you're already explaining why something happened, why you made that decision, why things didn't turn out exactly as planned. You think you're being transparent. What you're actually doing is apologizing for your existence. When you justify yourself unnecessarily, what you're really saying is, I don't trust my own authority. I need you to approve my choices. And from that moment on, you've already lost. Because now you're no longer someone who decides. You're someone who asks for permission disguised as explanation. Let me give you an example. A meeting. Someone questions a number in your report. Most people instantly switch to defense mode. Well, what happened was that I didn't have access to the previous data, so I had to make an estimate based on what was available. But I can redo it if you think, stop, just stop. The correct response? The number is accurate based on the available data. If there's something specific you'd like reviewed, let me know and I'll take a look. That's it. No drama, no excuses, no weakening your position. Second mistake, you fill the silence. Silence makes you uncomfortable, so you talk. You say anything. You speak to avoid awkwardness. You speak because you think staying quiet will look strange. And the more you talk, the less weight your words carry. Powerful people use silence as a tool. They let the other person get lost in their own words. They observe. They wait. Because those who talk too much reveal too much. And those who reveal too much give away control. Picture a negotiation. You make your offer. The other person stays silent. 10 seconds, 15, and you can't handle it. Well, we could also adjust it. Maybe if we... Congratulations, you just negotiated against yourself because you didn't trust your value enough to let the offer speak for itself. Silence isn't emptiness. Silence is pressure, and whoever breaks it first loses. Third mistake, you say yes when you should say no. Someone asks you for a favor. You don't have time. You don't want to do it, but you say yes anyway. Because you don't want to seem rude, or because you're afraid of damaging the relationship, or because deep down you believe your value comes from being useful. Here's the truth. When you say yes to everything, your yes becomes meaningless. You turn into the person who's always available, and those who are always available are never a priority. Even worse, when you finally say no, you feel the need to explain it. I'd love to, but this week is crazy because I have 3 projects and you're asking permission to have boundaries. And that instantly puts you in a subordinate position. The correct response? It won't work this time. No explanation. No guilt. No drama. Because you don't need to justify having limits. 4th mistake, you react emotionally when challenged. Someone provokes you, questions you, criticizes you in public. You feel the heat rise. You want to strike back with the same intensity. You want to prove you're right. You want the other person to feel as uncomfortable as you do. And the moment you do that, you lose. Because whoever loses emotional control loses control of the situation. And everyone in the room notices. It doesn't matter if you were right. It doesn't matter if the attack was unfair. What matters is that you reacted. And emotional reaction is proof of vulnerability. The correct move? Absolute calm. You listen, you pause, and you respond with surgical coldness. No anger, no urgency, just clarity. Because when you don't get shaken, you don't give anyone the power to shake you. And that is devastating. 5th mistake, you apologize for things that aren't your fault. Someone arrives late. You say, "Sorry for the wait." Someone doesn't understand a clear instruction. You say, "Sorry, I should have explained it better." Someone gets offended by something you said with no intention of offending. You say, "Sorry, that's not what I meant." You're apologizing for existing. Apologies have weight when they're rare. When you apologize for everything, you're telling people everything is your fault, that you are the problem, and they start believing it because you trained them to. Learn the difference. Apologies are for mistakes. Empathy is for discomfort when you did nothing wrong. I understand your frustration is not the same as "this was my fault." That distinction changes everything. 6th mistake, you try to please everyone. You adjust your opinion depending on who's in the room. You avoid disagreement to keep things smooth. You smile when you should be serious. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You pretend interest in things you don't care about. And while you do that, you become generic, predictable, forgettable. Because no one respects someone without a position. No one trusts someone whose opinions change with the audience. No one remembers someone who blends in with everyone else. Memorable people are polarizing. They have clear boundaries. They disagree when necessary. They don't need to be liked by everyone because they know being respected by a few is far more valuable than being tolerated by many. Now we get to what really matters. How do you flip the game? First practical rule, cut your words in half. Before you speak, ask yourself, does this need to be said? Does it add value? Or is it just filling space? If it's the second option, stay quiet. Speak less. Speak better. Speak only when it matters. Every unnecessary word weakens your impact. The next time someone questions you, don't slip into explanation mode. Answer directly. If the question is legitimate, expand. If it's a test, close it. Yes, no, got it. Short answers aren't rude. They signal confidence. Second rule, practice strategic silence. When someone asks you a difficult question, don't answer immediately. Pause for 3 seconds. It sounds insignificant, but those 3 seconds change the dynamic. You exit reaction mode and enter deliberate mode. And the other person notices you're not afraid of silence. That's power. In meetings, when someone challenges you, count to 5 before responding. Let the silence sit. Let the other person start doubting their own move. And when you finally speak, speak slowly. A calm pace isn't hesitation, it's control. Third rule, set boundaries before you're forced to defend them. Don't wait until you're overwhelmed to say no. Don't wait until you're exhausted to demand respect. Define your rules early. I don't reply to messages after 9. I don't work weekends. I don't accept meetings without a clear agenda. And when someone tests those limits, and they will, you don't explain, you repeat. As I said, that won't work. And you hold the line. Because a boundary you don't enforce isn't a boundary. It's a suggestion. Fourth rule, master your body language. You can say the right words, but if your body says something else, you lose. Stop crossing your arms defensively. Stop breaking eye contact when someone looks at you. Stop shrinking in your chair like you're apologizing for being there. Sit upright, shoulders back, eye contact steady. When you speak, your entire body speaks with you, not just your mouth. And when someone else is talking, don't nod like a dashboard toy agreeing with everything. You listen, you process, you decide whether you agree, and people can see that. Fifth rule, Stop reacting. Start responding. Reaction is automatic. Response is a choice. When someone attacks you, you don't strike back. You don't get defensive. You don't panic. You observe the intention behind the attack, and then you decide how to handle it. In practice, someone criticizes you in front of everyone. The reaction would be, "You don't know what you're talking about." The response is, "Interesting. Can you explain what led you to that conclusion?" You're not being passive. You're placing the weight back on them without losing composure. Sixth rule, choose your battles, but when you choose one, commit fully. Don't be the person who starts to disagree and then backs down halfway. Don't raise an objection only to say, "Never mind." That labels you as someone who can't handle conflict, and conflict is unavoidable if you have value. If you disagree, do it clearly. If you confront, do it precisely. If you set a boundary, do it without hesitation. And if you retreat, retreat strategically, not out of fear. How you handle conflict defines how people treat you everywhere else. Seventh rule, control your availability. The harder you are to access, the more valuable you appear. This isn't arrogance, it's selectivity. You don't respond instantly to everything. You don't accept every meeting. You're not always available. When someone reaches out, you evaluate whether it's worth your time. If it isn't, you delegate, postpone, or decline, without apologizing. "I'll have to pass this time. It doesn't fit my schedule this week. Send it in writing and I'll review it later." You're communicating one thing: my time has value. And when you value your time, others learn to value it too. Eighth rule, stop celebrating effort, celebrate results. No one cares that you worked 16 hours. No one cares that you gave up your weekend. What matters is what you delivered. So stop mentioning your sacrifice. Stop seeking recognition for the process. Present the outcome and let it speak. "I finished the project" is infinitely more powerful than "I stayed up all night finishing the project." One signals competence, the other asks for sympathy. Choose wisely. Ninth rule, detach from the need to be understood. You don't need people to understand your motivations. You don't need them to agree with your decisions. You don't need them to like you. You need respect. And respect doesn't come from explanation. It comes from consistency. So the next time someone questions your decision, don't launch into a monologue. Say, "That's my decision," and move on. You're not answering to a jury. You're answering to results, and results don't require justification. 10th rule, observe before you participate. When you enter a room, don't start talking immediately. Observe, read the energy, identify who holds power, who's trying to prove something, who's insecure, then decide how and when to contribute. Weak people speak right away because they're afraid of being forgotten. Strong people enter quietly, and when they speak, everyone listens. Because they're not competing for attention. They know they already have it. Let me leave you with one last thought. This is what separates people who actually change from those who only consume content about change. You're not going to become a different person overnight. You won't wake up tomorrow suddenly radiating presence, confidence, and control. But you can start removing, one by one, the habits that weaken you. And every time you don't over-justify, every time you let silence work in your favor, every time you say no without guilt, you're rewiring how the world perceives you. Because reputation isn't built in dramatic moments. It's built through micro-decisions, in how you reply to an email, in how you carry yourself during a casual conversation, in how you respond when someone tests your boundaries. People will treat you exactly the way you teach them to treat you. And up to now, you've been teaching the wrong lesson. So stop asking for permission to take up space. Stop apologizing for having value. Stop trying to be liked by everyone, and start being respected by the few who matter. Because in the end, no one remembers who was pleasant. Everyone remembers who was undeniable.